am so excited because today I am talking about my favorite alien movie out of all the alien movies that were made. It is Alien 1979, directed by Ridley Scott. A lot of people come to me and say, how could you love that one the best? There's Aliens, there's Prometheus, there's some people stand up for Covenant and Alien 3 and tell me those are way better. But for me, there's nothing that beats the first Alien movie from 1979. And another reason I'm talking about it is because it is being re-released for its 45th anniversary. It is going to be April 26th through 28th in select theaters. So make sure to check that out. If you have a theater that's playing it, I'm going to tell you why it's so important to see Alien in theaters. Well, let's first start off with the importance of seeing film in theaters. Even ones that you've seen 1,000 times. Let's say you've seen Alien 5 times, right? But you've never seen it in theaters. There's something that you can't get anywhere else than at a theater. And this film is a horror and science fiction masterpiece. Great in crowds, especially horror. Horror and comedy are cousins or brothers. There is live reactions to it when you're seeing it in a crowd. And even if it wasn't a horror movie, seeing a film in the theaters where you can just bounce off reactions from one another, you can hear people's reaction, you can hear crying, you can hear laughing, you can hear screaming, or it's contemplative and you just hear quiet and a pin can drop and you know that there's a serious moment happening. Maybe there's a gasp. But when we're watching films in a theater, it's a setting, it's a group. I work for a art house cinema. We do repertory screenings, so I am the programming assistant. I help pick out the films that we're going to be showing, and let me tell you, every time there is a film that is 20, 30 years old, 50 even, people have seen this film. I've asked, oh, is this your first time? And they go, no, I've seen this. And yet, they scream and holler and laugh like it's their first time seeing it, because it is. Seeing a film in the theaters that you've already seen feels like you're seeing it for the first time. So, highly recommend you go see it. Just to help put this in perspective, if you are someone that watches movies on your phone, I'm gonna just let David Lynch say it for me.
A telephone, you will never in a trillion years experience the film. You'll think you have experienced it, but you'll be cheated. It's such a sadness that you think you've seen a film on your fucking telephone. Get real.
Okay, so on to Alien. What makes Alien so important? Why do you need to see this movie? Well, this is Ridley Scott directed, and that's a very important point. Ridley Scott has come back to the Alien franchise, and people like me have thought he's the best at the helm. Some people say James Cameron is with Aliens, but Ridley Scott has come back to his franchise. So it's his second movie ever. His first movie was The Duelists, made in 1977. It's about two men locked in a duel based off of Joseph Conrad's book. And it spans decades, nominated for a Palme d'Or. And then he gets tasked for this film. There are so many components in this film that makes it the masterpiece it is. Part of that is writer Dan O'Bannon. He is half of this magic pie. And there are many parts that I'm going to be talking about, but let's first start off with Ridley Scott and Dan O'Bannon. Ridley Scott's direction in this, from the tight corridors to the industrial zooms and pans, he creates such a claustrophobic area to be navigating. We feel like we're on the ship. There's not a part of it that you feel you're not on that ship. You feel right in there. And on a big screen, it's like seeing Star Wars on the big screen when that ship comes over, when the Nostromo comes over. There's nothing like it. I remember watching it and just seeing that ship. It felt like Star Wars. And 20th Century Fox, for its credit, saw the giant impact that Star Wars made. It was so successful. They were craving sci fi. And they looked, and there was Dan O'Bannon's script right on the desk. He previously worked on Dark Star. So if you're a John Carpenter fan, you'd know of Dark Star. It's his student film from UCLA. Dan O'Bannon was the writer and friend of John Carpenter that also starred on it as Sergeant Pinhead. Dan O'Bannon worked on this film, and it was his dry run for Alien. It's more of a science fiction comedy than it is a horror. And as you can see, there's a beach ball versus the wonderfully made Alien from Alien. But nonetheless, it was industrial in those tight corridors. And where did he get his craft? Where did he learn that industrial look and get inspired? Well, he was part of Star Wars. He was part of the miniature effects team in Star Wars in 1977 after he worked on Dark Star. And then, of course, we know that he wrote Alien and was part of the visual consulting team for Alien as well. You'll notice this visual consulting team is a dream team of people. I'll talk about more about that later. But after that he goes on to heavy metal, and he writes 2 stories for the adult animated film, which an animated film relies a lot on writing. It relies a lot on good writing to make the visuals pop and work, and you can be more creative and more flamboyant sometimes with animation than you could regularly. His projects that he chose as a writer, it's inspired me. It's inspired a lot of other people. He is a very important part of Alien that sometimes doesn't get talked about a lot. But we need to recognize Dan O'Bannon as the writer of Alien to come up with that idea, to come up with the working class people of the future. It's really, Alien is a reaction, as well as Solaris was from Tarkovsky, a reaction to 2001: A Space Odyssey. The clean, the nice, the white, spotless future that Kubrick helped paint. It's an incredible movie. Don't get me wrong, 2001's amazing, but these movies, like Alien, show us that, hey, maybe the future is going to be kind of like the present. There's more going on than just what we think. Oh, and the cast. Get ready for, one of the best cast lists. Here we go. Tom Skerritt, Sir John Hurt, Sigourney Weaver, Yaphet Kotto, Harry Dean Stanton. This is a murderer's row of great actors. John Hurt, personally, is one of my favorites. I love him. And Sigourney Weaver, what a performance. Smashes the expectations of actresses to that time. You can lead a movie and be an action star. Doesn't matter your gender or color or whatever you are. If you're an amazing actor, you got it. You can handle any project. And she competes with the men and survives. That's what's so important about this movie, is the survival of it. Overcoming great odds to beat and conquer, and oh gosh, just every part of this movie, you're rooting every step of the way. And it's thanks to these great performances by all these actors. John Hurt, of course, had to be restrained for the famous chest burster scene. When I was young, I heard about Alien. I went to my dad and he sat me down and he goes, "Oh, you're too young for that. There's this scene in the movie that is so intense. You're way too young." But that just intrigued me more. I wanted to know, what was I too young for? To this day, seeing that scene gets the heart pumping. Because it's live reactions, real reactions. A lot of people thought it was one take, but it's actually two. He left the first take in, which shows it struggling, which only just adds to the tension. And then it bursts out. And there's blood, there's guts. There's all this stuff, and it's actual real animal guts and blood to make the scene that more real. It stunk up the whole set. I mean, just the brilliance, the direction from Ridley Scott to think of that and use that. Wow. Again, they don't make movies like they did. um, the fact that this was a scene that gets talked about, parodied, it lasts in culture. It's a scene that, even if my dad never saw the movie, he knew of that scene. He said, hold on, you can't just watch Alien. You got to be prepared. And that's what I'm doing for you here. I'm letting you know. I'm preparing you for the best experience in movie theaters you're going to have this year, probably. Maybe Dune Part 2. Speaking of Dune, Ron Cobb and Dan O'Bannon, both, who I'll talk about Ron Cobb in a bit, worked on Jodorowsky's Dune, which was a Polish director, and he was going to make Dune before Lynch back in 1976. It fell through, but Dan O'Bannon still contributed to a lot of it in the designs that Ron Cobb used. So, can you imagine a Dune from these guys? And would any of this work without H.R. Geiger's artwork? No. That's what inspired Dan O'Bannon. His beach ball alien from Dark Star would not work in this film. If you saw an alien that had little webbed feet and a beach ball come up, when we hear the creak of the pipes and the overhead sound of this, something's in there. Like that amazing tagline, in space no one can hear you scream. H.R. Geiger's artwork was what inspired him to even come up with this design, to think about this design. He actually saw the painting Necronom 4, made by H.R. Geiger here. And Fox actually believed it was too ghastly, that audiences could not handle something that looked like this. Geiger created the alien as a response to the industrialness of the set. Thanks to Ron Cobb, that set looking the way it does. But he made it organic and biomechanical. You know that this thing doesn't belong in there. It's from a planet. It's alien. It's alien. You know that it's another organic living matter. It's something that you can't really. It's not a robot. It's not something that. Speaking of, the robot in this film is incredible. I won't tell you who for spoilers, but there is a robot. Look forward to that. Anyway, it is amazing to have such a live looking thing, and the way it looks, that head shape is so Geiger. That entire look, and it's so unique. Nothing to this day looks like that alien, and it's thanks to an incredible artist and movie creators seeing that artist and saying, let's use him, let's talk to him, let's figure out what he thinks. You know, this is such amazing artwork. Can it be applied into a practical physical realm? And it can. But you know, the alien is so much from so many different people. You have Dan O'Bannon, the writer. You have Ridley Scott, the director. You have Ron Cobb, the conceptual artist. You have H.R. Geiger, the artist and designer of it. And I hope I get the name right. Bojay Badejo, as a 6'10" tall man in the suit, because it was eventually made into a suit you could wear. And he took mime classes to, as an actor, figure out how the alien would move. And Ridley Scott actually said it adds more humanity to the alien. So you do feel just that more bit of unease. It's an incredible film. It's also so much about a company that forces these workers to go out into the reaches of space and do their bidding. It's a capitalist commentary. And the name of that company is Weyland-Yutani. It's based off the Leyland British Motor Company, and Yutani, Ron Cobb's Japanese neighbor that he knew. But that Weyland-Yutani company is going to play a huge part in the next film. So, as I've said, this film is a combination of so many great artists, a great director, great actors, to make a masterpiece. It's a Making a movie is a collaborative process. It always is. The real great ones are from great collaborators and artists. Make sure to see that movie in theaters when it comes out this April 26th through 28th. Alien, my favorite. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think this is your favorite of the Alien franchise, or if not, what is. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great day and watch those films, baby.